Today's topic is one of the more important topics in programming, and that is variables. All right, I thought about having Visual Studio up and on the screen and ready to start, but I still think you all need to see this more and practice it more. Programming is something you've got to practice. If there won't be an assignment, I'm not making an assignment for this lecture. There will be an assignment for the material in this lecture on Tuesday, but I still think you ought to practice this. The best thing you can do is while this is fresh, or run it is to do this, or run it concurrently, like you did the program yesterday, just for some practice. But I'm going to go all the way back to the start and fire up Visual Studios. I want to create a new project. I want to open an empty project. I'm going to call this one variables. You can call it anything you like on your computer. All right, I don't like where I'm putting this. This puts it under repos, whatever that is. So I'm going to right click on this box. Right, I'm going to go under download or documents, and I'm going to put it in that folder I made the other day. Now everything I run is going to be under users, James Martis, documents, CIS 114. Then I'm going to hit create. That brings your IDE up. You go under source files. I need something to type into, so I want to add a new item. I want it to be a C++ file. That's .cpp. And I want to hit add. That brings your editor window up. All right. One of the things I learned from Tuesday's lesson was that you all were having trouble seeing what was going on the screen. Some of you were using the square brackets or parentheses instead of the curly brackets, and it was just causing mistakes. So what I went in and did was I went into the default and changed the size of the text. So I think you all should be able to see this a lot better. All right, with any program, first thing I want to do is comment it. I'm going to call this one variables. I'm going to put my name on it. I want to include IOStream inside of those side carets. All right, this line here is one of the few lines that you don't have to put a semicolon after. The next thing, just like you did the other day, you want to use namespace so you can use naming conventions. Okay, now we're going to start our main. It always starts out int main parentheses. Right. Then I drop down a line. Then I hit, here's where everybody was making the mistake yesterday. I want curly brackets. If you type in one curly bracket, you get two pop up. A set. For a program to run, you always have to have a set. You have to have a set of parentheses. You know, you have to have an open parentheses, a closed parentheses, or it won't run. You have to have an open bracket or a closed bracket, or it won't run. So I'm just going to go ahead and advance this. For the program to tell the operating system that it's done, you need to put a return 0 semicolon, and it actually indents itself. All right, look at what I've got here. Right here is something you're going to be dealing with all semester. This is what your program, the shell of your program, is going to look like. Comments include IOStream, because every one of your projects are going to have input and output. using namespace, things are going to be named in the titles and the variables and everything. You want to use namespace, and then it's going to be int main return 0. Open bracket, close bracket, all your code with inside these two brackets. All right, to start the day, we want to go ahead and get started on variables. First kind of variables what we're going to work with are integers. If you remember from algebra, way back then, integers are basically whole numbers that are negative and positive. 12, 146, negative 37, they're all integers, right? 2.375, that's not an integer, and we'll learn how to deal with that probably sometime next week. Right now, we're just going to deal with integers, right? I'm going to type in int. What I'm doing here is I am declaring an integer. Int num1 semicolon. That means in memory, I've carved out a spot for an integer called num1. That's called declaring. I declared num1 an integer and set aside a space in memory. The RAM part of memory, random access memory. You don't need to know that. Just know it's memory. All right, I need another integer. Let's call this one, let's be real original. Let's call this integer num2. So I've just declared two integers. There's a space in memory, num1, num2. There's no value, all right? It's set aside for an integer, but there's no value there. So what I'm going to do is num1, I'm going to assign, and this is called an assignment statement, I'm going to assign it a value of 12. Right? Let's go ahead and assign num2 a value of 2. All right, let's take a look at what we've got. I'm going to see out my first number is right. See out in quotation marks, my first number is, and I left a space right here. And then left arrow, num1, left arrow, end line. Let's see what this looks like. All right, my first number is, and then 12. It doesn't print out num1. Num1 is not in quotation marks. It prints out what is in memory under num1, which is 12. All right, let's see what else we can do with this. See out my first number plus 6 equals num1 plus 6 right. My first number plus 6 equals, then I'm telling it num1, take num1 and add 6 to it, and I'm printing it out. Go up to my local Windows debugger. So my number is 12. My first number plus 6 equals 18. All right, let's see what else I can do with it. my two numbers added equals space num1 plus num2 Okay, now I'm going to see out my two numbers added equals. Then what this is telling, for your screen's purposes, it's saying num1 plus num2 inline. Okay, the value of num1 and num2 is not saved anywhere, but it's going to print out, because this is a see out line, it's going to print out the value of number one plus the value of number two. So you can see here, my number is 12. My number plus 6 equals 18. My two numbers added equals 14. All right, this plus sign is what we call an operator. All right, there's several operators. I'm going to do a few right now so you can see it. A forward slash is division. So if I divide these, all right, this basically says my two numbers divided equals num1 divided by num2. Again, I'm not changing anything. I'm just going to print out the value of num1 divided by num2. This is division operator. I go up and hit local Windows debugger. And my two numbers divided equals 6. And another one is if you use an asterisk, or I don't know what you call this, star, whatever that is. If you use that, that becomes multiplication. All right, my two numbers multiplied, num1, num2, neither one's changed. They're 12 and 2. I go up and hit Windows debugger. My two numbers multiplied equals 24. All right, so what I've just showed you there is how to print these out. All right, we can do something else. We can assign as many variables as you want. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a num3. No value in there yet. If I run this program, watch, num3 is not even used. But if I go up and hit local Windows debugger, everything still works. I declared a num3, but since it wasn't used in the program, it didn't show up any errors. All right. So what I'm going to do is I declared num3. Now I'm going to assign a value to it. Num3 equals 12 plus 2. No, I'm sorry. How did what? Num1 plus num2. Right? I declared num3 here, and I'm telling it. I told the program what num1 is. I assigned 12 to num1. I assigned 12 or 2 to num2. Now they're in the program. Num3, I'm saying it's going to be num1 plus num2. So it's going to assign the value of 14 to num3. So we'll check that out. See out num3 equals num3. All right. See out num3 equals num3. So num3 equals 14, which is what we told it right here. Since num1 already had a value we had assigned to it, num2 had a value that we assigned to it. Now we can put both of those values inside of num3. All right, the next thing I want to let you all know is about literals. Okay, these are integer values. Right, I want to see out num3 equals these two lines look a lot alike. Num3 equals left caret, num3, left caret, and L. Right? This next line is the same thing. It's got num3 in it, but the num3s are inside of quotation marks. Right? That makes this a literal. I want to run these so you can see. Okay, it's these last two lines of code. Num3 equals num3. So num3 equals 14. Okay, that's the blue highlighted NUM3 that I actually assigned right here. But now for this last line, num3 equals num3. I put num3 inside of quotation marks. When you do that, it just basically becomes text, right? It doesn't look inside the area that is cut aside for num3. It just prints out whatever's inside of those quotation marks. It just types out, and you could use reserved words like int or cout. Anything you put inside of the quotation marks just becomes text. All right, I want to clean this up. Matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all this and move on to the next thing is characters. We know how to declare and assign integers. Now I'll show you how to do it to characters. All right, characters, you just start out by CAR. That's a reserved word. And we're just going to call this L1. That means I set aside in memory a spot for a character in L1. And let's do another one. Character L2. Right. There we declared two different characters. Now let's assign something to them. L1 equals, and it always goes in this direction, guys. You always put, I'm going to put equals single quotation mark. I'm going to put A. What I want to say about this is I couldn't do this backwards. I couldn't put single quotation A equals L1. That's not proper code. It always runs from left to right. You start out with your variable, and then you assign that variable a character. All right, let's do L2 equals crazy. Let's call this one R. All right, let's see what they look like. Cout my, oops, got to be inside of quotation marks. My letter is, my first letter is, I'll leave a space. A 1. And I don't want to forget my indel because otherwise it would put the letters right back to back. See out. My second letter is are you all like aghast at how many typing mistakes I make? All right, here we go. Character L1, I declared. Character L2, I declared. L1, I assigned. Okay, here's a mistake. See this red squiggly mark? If you see those, you've made a mistake. What I did is I've typed a little, what I'm trying to do here on this line, mistakes are good, all right? I'm trying to assign the letter R to little L2. Well, I can't assign it because it's never been declared. So I have to fix that. Okay, now it's good. I'm declaring these two. I'm assigning here. Now I'm just printing them out. I'm going to print out what's inside of L1 and I'm going to print out what's inside of L2. All right, my first letter is A. My second letter is capital R. All right, what I would like, and I'm not going to be there policing it, but I would really like you practicing this. There's no going back and reviewing this stuff from here on after this. We're going to be into more complicated stuff on next Tuesday. You all need to practice this. I don't want to assign anything today. Next week, you'll have one assignment, and it's going to be a lot more detailed than what you've had. These have just been quick one-off assignments. So what I would do is play this video and just practice some of the stuff that I put out there. Also, test yourself on whether you could just write a program from scratch off of your memories. This shell that I showed you here, right? See if you can bring this shell up. You don't have to worry about what the from char L1 down to return. Don't worry about that. Just see if you can bring up a program and make it something that'll run by itself. All right, just print out something. Just print out your name. See if you can do that without any notes or anything. All the tests in here will be open books, but I think this is something you should be fluent at real soon. All right, guys, that's it. If you got any questions, I'm going to be online for the rest of this class answering questions. So if you need anything, just let me know. Some of you will be here at school. Matter of fact, the majority of you will be here at school. Most of you all are Thursday, Friday students. You'll be watching this video on Thursday or on Thursday. So you can just wave and I'll come over your computer. If not, yesterday we seemed to get a lot done just by emails and putting questions in the chat section. So, but for the rest of this class, do give this some practice. All right, guys, if you're not here and I don't see you, have a great weekend.